This is the most important person in the Trump administration that you've probably never heard of. At least until the president posted this.
Vote is the reaper. He wields the pen, the funds and the brain. Here comes the reaper.
Join us now, Russ Vought.
Russ Vought.
Russell Vought, director of the office.
I tell people when Russ Vought speaks, it's like a papal bull. You should pay attention.
He's more than just Donald Trump's budget guru.
He has two very clear goals: to make the presidency as powerful as it's ever been, and to dismantle as much of the federal bureaucracy as he can.
People have referred to him as the shadow president. I'm Andy Kroll. I'm an investigative reporter for ProPublica. I've been covering politics and government in Washington for almost 16 years. I had heard the name Russ Vought, but he was always just slightly outside the field of vision. And then I got my hands on this video.
We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. When they wake up in the morning, we want them to not want to go to work.
He talks about this goal of wanting to traumatize federal workers.
We want to put them in trauma.
That just planted this seed in my mind that I had to try to figure out who this person is.
He declined my request for an interview, so I set out to talk to everyone I possibly could, watch every video, listen to every podcast. I obtained hours of briefings to his supporters that had never been published before.
America has experienced nothing short of a quiet revolution. We know the CRT and the transgender sewage that's being pumped into our schools and institutions. A border invasion furthering, quite frankly, a reverse colonization. We're actually trying to save the country.
Those recordings really helped me understand his evolution from this numbers wonk to a full-fledged leader of the MAGA movement.
One of the key authors of Project 2025, Russell Vought,
told the reporters that Trump would deploy the military to silence the unrest.
I think you have to rehabilitate Christian nationalism. You have the largest deportation in history, block funding for Planned Parenthood. I want to be the person that crushes the deep state.
Yeah, I called for trauma within the bureaucracies. The bureaucracies hate the American people.
He really has a vision to change the direction of American history.
We must do our duty for the course of this country, quite frankly, for the course of Western civilization, and for the course of history.
Vought has always seen himself as a blue-collar political outsider, even though he's spent basically his entire adult life here in Washington. The first job that seems to have left a real mark on him, and it did leave a serious imprint, was when he got a job working in the mailroom of a senator from Texas named Phil Gramm.
This is a collage of political giveaways. I am not going to spend more money we don't have on programs we can't afford.
Phil Gramm was the ultimate budget hawk. He was sort of half-jokingly referred to as the most hated man in Washington.
Our problem really comes down to the political power of the public employee labor union.
He was willing to make enemies not just of Democrats, but of Republicans as well. And that really gives you an insight into Russ Vought. When he was inside the legislative branch, he finds himself battling far more with fellow Republicans who, in his view, are not living up to the principles of what it means to be a conservative. He grows so disillusioned that he leaves.
After 12 years on Capitol Hill, I was often frustrated by why more members of Congress simply didn't do the right thing. Most of them spend too much time listening to the loud vocal groups in their district clamoring for more government.
He goes to this new upstart group called Heritage Action, the quote-unquote new fangs of an old beast, which is the Heritage Foundation, the sort of long-standing conservative think tank. And he becomes basically the chief antagonist of his own party.
Heritage Action, let's give him a warm welcome, Russ Vought.
We believe that every member of Congress needs congressional accountability, whether they're the best or the worst member of Congress.
You should not fund and pay for Obamacare.
It's hurting the American economy.
Fund government, but not Obamacare.
At midnight last night, for the first time in 17 years, Republicans in Congress chose to shut down the federal government.
He is very much a creature of the swamp, someone who knows the federal budget inside and out. He has really passionate feelings about the House Rules Committee Yet he comes around to this notion that we need to stir people at the grassroots and make that change flow up.
Never wanted to leave the fight, and really until Donald Trump becomes elected, and then you have an opportunity for paradigm shifting work.
The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action.
There was a scramble to try to get people to go into these key jobs, and getting people to go to the Office of Management and Budget is a crucial role. A lot of what they're doing right now at such a rapid clip, they tried to do during Trump's first administration. Every dollar that Congress approved to fund the government, OMB controls the flow of that money. If you were to pick the one place in the federal government to go where you could put a kink in the hose and bring everything to a stop, OMB is basically the only place where you could do that. But Congress has the power of the purse. And there is even a law that says the president cannot, quote unquote, impound, to use the legal jargon term, cannot freeze lawfully approved money just because the White House disagrees with it. But that's what they did in this case with Ukraine.
Democrats tonight are seizing on newly unredacted documents about what's at the heart of the president's impeachment, that freeze on military aid to Ukraine.
In 2019, the message comes down from the White House to the Office of Management and Budget that we want to freeze more than $200 million of money that was going to go to Ukraine in the form of security assistance.
The bureaucracy was literally just ignoring it. And quite frankly, his political appointees, like John Bolton, were ignoring him as well.
In Vought's eyes, this was a deep state insubordination, a rebellion by employees who weren't on board with the president.
And we cut the money off, and it was like all hell broke loose within the bureaucracy.
Well, he got impeached, yeah.
And so,
Resolution impeaching Donald John Trump.
Impeaching Donald John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors.
Vought has repeatedly said that they didn't break the law, even though this government watchdog said that they did. But really, he sees this as a kind of first test moment in a strategy that he believes actually the president should use, and should use far more often and aggressively than even in the case of the Ukraine money. It's July of 2020, and Vought is sworn in as the director.
We had 6 months to go, and the president said, "Russ, we need another term. We're just figuring this out."
In the final weeks of the administration, Trump is constantly talking about how the election is fraudulent. This, of course, culminates in January 6th. There is an exodus of senior people in the Trump administration. Russ Vought is not a part of that exodus. He stands by Trump. And on one of the last days, Vought tells him that he plans to launch this new political operation with the mission to essentially keep the MAGA movement alive.
Our next guest has launched a new think tank and advocacy group to advance former President Trump's America First agenda.
Russ Vought, former Office of Management and Budget Director and the president of the Center for Renewing America. Russ, thank you for joining me.
When Vought looks out at the state of the country, he sees quite a darkened landscape.
The FBI has been weaponized. Critical race theory is state-sanctioned racism. And what they're doing in our schools and pushing gender-affirming care is chemical castration.
In 2022, his organization, Center for Renewing America, hosts this gala at, of course, Mar-a-Lago. President Trump is there, giving Vought's operation his imprimatur in media appearances and briefing calls with his supporters. Vought is very vocal in a way that he just wasn't at any point earlier in his career about what he sees as being wrong with America.
So we believe that we have become too secular, not just overall in the country, but on the right. Our elites have lost the consensus that we're a Judeo-Christian nation.
And so this new project is not only about taking on critical race theory or raising awareness among the grassroots about the weaponization of government, but he's also seeding this deeper notion that America is basically losing sight of what it actually was meant to be.
I have no problem if it's properly understood when someone calls me a Christian nationalist. I reject when they're trying to use a dog whistle, when they're trying to say it's a fascist and all that nonsense. But should we lean into this?
Unlike most pejoratives, it describes something that's true. We are Christian who are nationalists. We are people who believe that we have a Christian nation. Right now, churches have all of this talk about love your neighbor, and they don't have any ability to say, no, we do not want that group of refuge coming from that country that is dominated by Sharia law. We don't want.
He takes his vision, his plan, his ideas straight to the grassroots.
Honor all the work that Russell Vought has been doing. Those Thursday calls, I look forward to every week.
He has this weekly briefing call with anyone who is a supporter who wants to tune in.
We have largely failed to turn back the overwhelming tide of government.
These recordings really give you a view into the way he thinks about strategy.
So when you're watching television and the words woke and weaponized come out of a politician's mouth, you can know that that's coming from this call, that's coming from the strategies that we're putting out and trying to shape the narrative.
He had success getting these ideas into the bloodstream of American politics.
Crooked Joe's DOJ is woke and weaponized.
Woke and weaponized bureaucrats at the Department.
This woke and weaponized government has to be defanged.
There's a moment in one of these tapes at this annual confab, and it was actually a speech given by Steve Bannon.
And I realize there's some people that question Trump, but look at that command performance he gave the other night. I mean, it's like Charlemagne. That's like a Viking chieftain standing up there. Russ can tell he's a very imperfect instrument, right? But he's an instrument of the Lord. He's an instrument of the Lord for his vengeance. Okay.
We think about Bannon and Vought as surrogates of Trump. When you hear Bannon describe Trump as an instrument of God, you start to think that maybe it's the other way around, that Trump is an instrument that Vought uses, that Bannon uses, or in their view, that the Almighty uses toward this longer term agenda.
The stark reality in America is that we are in the late stages of a complete Marxist takeover of the country. We are here in the year of 2024, a year that very well, and I believe it will, rival 1776 and 1860. And guess what? We have in Donald Trump a man who is so uniquely positioned to serve this role, a man whose own interests perfectly align with the interests of the country. That is nothing more than a gift of God.
The plans are already underway to ensure that if Donald Trump wins, all of the chaos and dysfunction and lack of preparation that hampered his first administration will not hamper his second. Vought is absolutely at the center of these efforts.
The majority of my time right now is being spent chairing the transition portion of the Project 2025. We have detailed agency plans. We are writing the actual executive orders. I don't want President Trump having to lose a moment of time having fights in the Oval Office about whether something is legal or doable or moral. If we fail, this election will have been for nothing.
The golden age of America begins right now.
Day one, in the most Trumpian fashion, the president sits down at a desk in an arena with a stack of executive orders. And he sets in motion just an absolute blizzard in the executive branch. Vought comes back into the same role, picking up right where he left off.
The president ran on the notion that the Impoundment Control Act is unconstitutional. I agree with that.
So it is the law of the land. I don't care what the president said when he was running. It is the law of the land.
He and his team played a key role in firing government workers, slashing budgets to the bone.
Rescind $1.1 billion in funding to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, $8.3 billion in funding for the State Department.
He held up billions in funding for Head Start, after-school programs, energy assistance for low-income households, research at the National Institutes of Health. One of Vought's colleagues at his think tank came out and said Elon Musk was taking direction from Russ.
The chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
There was some friction, but then there were other examples where it seemed that Vought and Doge were working hand in glove. And when they did, they could be brutally efficient. The clearest example of this is the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau.
We virtually shut down the out-of-control CFPB, escorting radical left bureaucrats out of the building and locking the doors behind them.
Vought was put in charge of it by Trump. He directed Doge operatives to go in and get access to data at the same time that Vought himself was shutting down the headquarters and stopping all work. This status quo smashing approach that Elon took.
Some of the things that I say will be incorrect. Nobody's going to bat 1,000.
Created more momentum for the bigger scale things that Vought wants to accomplish.
5:03 this morning, day 2 of the federal government shutdown, and right now Congress remains deadlocked.
We should not bend it all on a CR, because then we've given the heroin addict a taste of heroin again. Have we not, Russ?
I don't think anyone should be afraid of a government shutdown.
You know Russell Vought, he's a serious person, very serious person, and he's sitting there and he's getting ready to cut things.
Russ Vought, the OMB director, has been dreaming about this moment, preparing this moment since puberty.
Russ Vought, who has posted on X just a short time ago, the RIFs have begun. RIF, R-I-F, stands for reduction in force.
No matter the attacks, the slander, the legal bills, the ended relationships.
In Russ Vought, the cultural battles and the fiscal battles have been brought together.
So plan and act accordingly, give freely, pray continuously, but come what may, fight.
And you're seeing that play out day by day right now in the second Trump administration. It's hard to think of a White House that has so pushed the bounds on what the president can do.
They've never seen anything like what's happened in the last 8 months.
It's setting up what I think is going to be a pretty dramatic clash, not only between the White House and Congress, but ultimately a fight that's going to play out in the courts, and one that will determine how powerful the president really is.
We will make our country greater, stronger, more united, and more faithful than ever before. Thank you, God bless you, and God...